Hi, welcome to the small shed. This Saturday I'm back out in the garden and getting the garden pond sorted. See you in a minute. So this is the problem with the pond. It seems to drop level by about 50 mil, 2 inches after you've filled it up within a matter of a day or so, and then it remains stable at that point. And the trouble is it's leaving the black liner exposed, which I didn't really want. There are 3 real options as to what's causing that. There's either a hole in the liner, it's evaporation, which I think is extremely unlikely, but it's possible, or it's that the liner has got dropped behind one of the stones. It's dropped below the level that I'd set it at originally, and so it's effectively just escaping over the top edge. I was originally going to drain the whole pond out and start again, but there was that much wildlife in there I decided it was probably too disruptive. So I started off with the option 1 of a hole in the liner, and basically just went round at water level with a brush and inspecting it closely, and that ruled that one out pretty much straight away. With the drop in level, it is possible that it's evaporation. I really don't think it's likely, but it was a possibility. The only way I can go about sorting that out is a trick I learnt when I was working on a swimming pool contract some years ago. You set in a container into the water that's roughly the same surface area to volume of water proportion as the pond itself. Set it at a level on a base of some sort, and then fill it with water so that the water is level on both sides, both inside and outside the container. And then if it is evaporation, you're going to get the same drop in level on both containers. If it's a leak, it'll drop more on the outside where the pool is. So that was the first step. We filled the pool right the way back up and put a marker on it. And then once that was set as a level, I just left it 24 hours to come back and have a look and see what would happen. If it wasn't that, we then move on to the possibility that the liner is dropping around the edge somewhere. So here we are, 24 hours on, and clearly we've lost the best part of 10 or 15 mil of water from the pond. The question is that evaporation, which I doubt, or is that water loss through a leak? So let's just go and have a look at the other tray and see what we've got. Now on the other tray, the water level is pretty much the same inside. It's the level of that step, but outside it's dropped right below it. So that's telling us that it's not evaporation. Now the only area I hadn't really looked at was around this plant, and I think looking at this, I'm getting damp behind the barrier, so I'm wondering if that is where the problem is. So I'm just going to take this out and see if that's where the problem's lying. Hello, Mr. Frog. How are you? Sorry about that. wouldn't stay there if I was you. Come on out. Come on, out you come. Certainly looks as if that's where we've got some water coming through. Hiya. Alright there. If I was you, I'd move. So I've found pretty much all the pinch points around the edge and lifted it where I thought it was a bit low. The biggest setter of levels is the patio, and I can't really come up any higher than that, and that was a bit low here, so I think I've been getting some water coming through there. Just going to lift that level very slightly, but I can't come up much more than a few mil with sand. And then having done that, I'm going to refill the pool till it overflows, let it settle and see if it then settles at what I hope is the new higher level, and then I can think about resetting all the stones to that level. It may be that some of them were slightly high in the first place, but we'll do that first. So having got to the point where the water level was remaining stable, I then moved on to rebedding all the stones around the edge. And first step before I got that started was to get all the old mortar off the stones that I'd previously laid. It wasn't too much of a problem, it comes off fairly straightforwardly with a smack with a bricklayer's hammer or a hammer and bolster and chisel. Next job, now I've managed to actually get out from lockdown and get some sand and cement. That was one of the big things that was holding things up, was to get some mortar mixed using about a 1:4, 1:3 fairly strong mix, and trying to keep as much as possible out of the pond. There was quite a bit that actually slipped down into the pond, but it doesn't seem to have upset any of the residents too much. In fact, in one place it made almost like a beach with the sand that was in there, and the newts seemed to like basking on it, but we've swept all that off now anyway once it was finished. And then I've just worked my way around, just rebedding all the stones and making sure that that liner tucked up at the back and wasn't going to let water back out over the top edge again like it had been doing. Just wetting some of the stones before I bedded them, it just stops the mortar sucking the water out of the stone, stopping it just stops the stone sucking the moisture out of the mortar almost before it's set and levelled. Just helps it a bit. And then just working the way around, getting them all in, bit of a jigsaw, but hopefully when everything's grown it'll just drop over it and you eventually won't see the stones at all, hopefully, or only get small glimpses of them. And then some of the surplus bits that were obviously far too big of the liner were cut off that had been left. Trimming all that down and filling behind with fresh compost soil so that we can try and get some plants growing there. It's another spin-off of the mistake of putting it too close to the back of the fence line, is that there's hardly any room for anything to grow in there. There's not a lot of, by the time you've got the foundations of the fence posts, and there isn't a fat lot of room for soil. But we'll put some alpines in there and hopefully that will all drape over and cover most of the stonework up. And then when that was all done, I've just got the hose out and topped it back up to level. The stones at the where we let the wildlife, you know, the birds can get down to the water to feed, I've taken all that back out, given it all a clean down. Again, made sure there were no damage on the liner or anything, and then just put new stones in or replace the stones that were there so that the wildlife can get down for a drink without falling in. And so just topped it up to level then and left it for a day just to make sure we'd actually solved the problem, which we seem to have done. And all I've got to do now is just wait for the undergrowth to grow back, and we can make a start then on the actual waterfall part next. But it certainly seems to have taken quite well. The pool's cleared. I've still got a problem with blanket weed and pondweed, but we'll address that once the pump starts working and there's more moving water. It should solve some of the problems, but we'll try and address those later. The lily that we took out and hacked to pieces a few episodes ago, I think it was the very first one I did on this, that has now started to flower as well and is taking well to its new surroundings. Well, that's one little job that was going to be done this year at some point. The lockdown probably brought it slightly further forward, and coupled with the weather that we had in May, that was really nice, and it enabled me to get out in the garden early. Hope you enjoyed the build. Look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll be doing something different. I'll see you then. Bye.